The Apollo suit screen is 8:57. My wristwatch is 9.
So it's actually a minute to the top of the hour. So I think let's work with the hour on our wristwatch, because mine is about almost 8 seconds to the top of the hour. So I can see we have a total of 23 participants already online. I can see Mugo is already online. Hi, Mugo. Good to have you on board. I can also see Macharia. I can see Swabir. Welcome, Swabir. I can see Perry. I can see Dina. See Maureen. I hope we have a good number of participants from the branch network, as well as, I don't know if we have anybody from Uganda joining us today.
They should be joining. Let me see. I can't see anyone. Let me see. No, not. I think just to caution, guys, you can rename yourself so that after this, I'm able to know who attended. DC. Who is DC? Maybe you can rename yourself. Just right-click on your name and then rename. I have allowed everybody to rename. Also, Oppo A5 2020. I suspect this is Anthony. I'm not sure. You can rename yourself or just chat me and tell me, you know, that's you if you're not able to rename. Yeah, I think that's it. Let me just set it up on Workplace in a minute.
Okay, so once we are live on Workplace, you can let me know so that we can kick it off.
Yes.
All right. So Agnes, whenever you're ready, we kick it up so that we be on time.
Yes, 1 second, it's loading.
Maybe the loading will find us already at...
Yes, we are now okay.
We're now good to go?
Yes, you can start.
Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone. Karibuni sana to yet another Agile 101 session. This is the third of the 4 video series. And like before, a big thank you to those who have always been able to take time off their busy schedule, especially that this is the most productive time of your morning hours and of the day, to just be with me for 1 hour. So mine is to say thank you, and I promise this is going to be a valuable session. Now we've already done series 1, we've already done series 2. Now this is series 3. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we actually get to put our hands on the actual thing. And for this session, we're going to take like about 10 minutes to go a few theoretical components of the training. And then we are going to use 10 minutes for just a little bit of theoretical sessions, and then the remaining hours will be more practical. So once again, I'm your presenter for the day. My name is Job Otianga. I'm the Agile coach at APA Insurance, to be specific, the Digital Factory. I am at the Apollo Center, 2nd floor. Should you ever find yourself in the building, kindly feel free to pass by for us to interact and chat. For those in the building, I always say, Karibuni sana, I'm always here available to you. As we begin, a couple of house rules. Number 1, please make sure that your microphone is muted. If you have any question, please use the chat feature to send us your query. Should you want to participate in the live discourse, please raise your hand using the participant feature at the bottom of the screen. Then either Agnes or any other of the moderators will be able to loop you into the discussion. So to kick us off is a quote from one of the greatest icons who have ever walked this planet Earth. He is, and I'm sure most of you know him, Steve Jobs, the former CEO and founder of Apple. And he says, great things in business are never done by one person alone. They are done by a team of people. I'm going to repeat that. Great things in business are never done by one person. They are done by a team of people. And I believe this resonates with our actual training today, which is basically an agile training and which speaks of team collaboration. Now, for the first two training series, we looked at what agile is in specific. We looked at some of the foundational building blocks that are required in order to successfully scale at agile. We looked at some of the myths surrounding agile, and we also looked at the agile manifesto in detail, as well as the 12 supporting principles. So that there were 4 agile values which speak to the agile manifesto. Then there were the other 12 principles that basically support the 4 values of the agile principle. And if you can remember them, we said we prefer customer collaboration. Who else can remember? So we have, so the manifesto are surrounded, revolve around 4 values, which basically say that 1, we prefer customer collaboration over contract negotiation, okay? We prefer individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We are welcome to change. And 4, we prefer a working software over tedious documentation. So those were basically the 4 agile values that we looked at. Now, today in detail, we are going to focus on the agile framework. We're going to focus into detail the agile framework. By the way, I hope you can be able to see my screen. Just one second. Let me just one second. Hope you're able to see my screen. I kind of lost it over there. So allow me to share it once more. Should you not be able to see my screen, please let me know and I will immediately find out what the problem could be. So there it is. I hope you can see it. So today our major focus is going to be on the agile frameworks that are available in the market, and to be specific, we are going to look at the Kanban framework. Now, there are a plethora of agile frameworks that are currently used in the market. Okay, we have Scrum, we have Kanban, then we have a marriage of Scrum and Kanban, which we tend to call Scrumban. Then we have extreme programming, we have the lean software development, then we have feature-driven development. The other one is called less, it's called less, which is basically lean software development. Sometimes lean software is called less lean software development. But the key thing that you need to understand with all these frameworks is that they're all founded on the 4 values as well as the 12 principles. While the evolution might have brought about different frameworks, they are all founded on the same values and the same principles. And they all seek to solve the same issue that the customer kind of face today. Now, for our session today, we're going to focus on Kanban. And our understanding is going to be based on trying to scale agile using the Kanban framework. The reason being, Kanban is quite simple. Kanban allows you to start from where you are. Kanban doesn't allow you, enables you to use whatever you have at hand. You don't have to like dismantle everything and then start afresh. You can start from where you are. Now, to begin with, Kanban in its rudimentary form basically is a Japanese translation for visual. So Kanban in Japanese basically means to visualize. So it was borrowed from the Japanese car manufacturing concept. Now, in the early part of the 20th century, one of the key methodology or key thought process in manufacturing was that of just-in-time manufacturing. What that meant is that when you needed a particular component for a particular car model, then it will be availed to you. Now, what they did in that particular era was they moved away from the thought process where you had to gather all your raw materials that you require for manufacturing or building or assembling a car in advance, put them in some warehouse somewhere. Then when you needed materials, you go into that warehouse, rummage through the different door parts, different engine components, then start pulling them out of the warehouse, then drag them or push them into the factory, then use them at that particular time. Unfortunately, that meant that there was a lot of wastage. By the end of the year, you ended up with so many components that were unused. You had so much capital tied to raw materials that weren't going to be used anytime soon. So there was a lot of wastage. So the idea was, how can we minimize wastage? That's when the concept of just-in-time car manufacturing came about, such that when I needed a component that for my manufacturing or for my assembly line at that particular point, then it would be availed. Now, using the same mindset, the same was borrowed back into software development process. And like I said, Agile has its roots in software development. That's why you always hear me referring back to software development. But it is now being scaled across the organization, across the enterprise, to enable other business lines to actually benefit from what the software manufacturing people benefited from. So in summary, Kanban basically means to visualize. It was borrowed from the Japanese car manufacturing concept, okay? Then in its also rudimentary form, Kanban is a project management tool, all right? It is a project management tool designed to enable team visualize their work. As a team, you start bringing your work components to the surface, whereby everything is now made transparent to everyone. Everyone knows what you're working on, and at what particular point are you with your particular task. Now, one of the advantages of using Kanban is that it helps to bring to the surface the workflow through which a particular task goes through. Then over time, you can tweak that workflow to make it easier for work to move smoothly across the assembly line. Now, let us go a little bit deeper so that you can gain a deeper understanding of Kanban. Like, remember I said, Kanban simply means to visualize. And if you have walked into most innovation hubs, for example, here at the Digital Factory, you'll always see some whiteboards and some sticky notes. Now, this is where we bring to life the whiteboard and the sticky note concept. Now, if you look at my screen, there is a particular whiteboard and then the particular visual elements, okay? So this is Kanban in its simplest elements. You have the white space in the background, then you have the visual elements at the forefront that helps you to visualize what your work is. Now, we are going to look at these different visual components and what they mean. Now, these different components or these different elements are actually what make up the Kanban. Now, everything you see on this board is basically a visual signal. Now, let's start with the simplest of them all, now, which is the cards. In the physical form, the cards are the sticky notes, okay? These are what detail your work component. For those whom we have tried to scale Agile, when we started off with the physical board and we put on the wall somewhere some wallpaper, a white wallpaper, stick it on the board, then divide it into columns, and then come up with the different sticky notes and move it across the different columns. Now, those are what we call the cards. So the cards are the smallest form of your work or activity that you are doing. So it captures the information of what you are actually working on. Now, then we have the different columns, okay? We're going to look at what makes up these columns. Now, the columns are basically the stages through which the tasks go through. I'd call them activity stages, okay? So your work moves from one column or from one stage to the next stage, okay? So you may, in the simplest form, we have like 3 columns. You have like to do work, work that is to do, work that is in progress, and work that has been completed. That is the simplest makeup of the different columns. Now, the different columns now are what we call the workflow. Now, the different activities, I'll keep switching in between the terms. So we have columns and activity. Now, the different activity or columns, as you can see on my screen over here, the different columns or the different activities, they make up your workflow. Now, think of your workflow as from the point when you have your in tray to the point where you have your out tray, okay? Now, from the point where you receive a piece of work to the point where you actually deem it as finished, okay? Those different stages it goes through, that is what we call the workflow. And as a team, it is imperative that you define what your workflow is. As you move from, let's say, legal to, let's say, underwriting, to, let's say, claims, to, let's say, assessment, the workflows may differ. So it is imperative that you, as a team, come together and define what defines our starting point of the workflow and our ending point of the workflow. Now, the starting point of the workflow is what we call a commitment point. This is where the piece of work actually comes into play. That is your commitment point, excuse me. Now, once it goes through the different stages and it's actually deemed as complete, then at that particular point where it is deemed as complete, the last column, that is what we call a delivery point. So your work flows from a commitment point to a delivery point. Are you together? Now, the time it takes for a piece of work to flow from a commitment point to a delivery point, that is what we call the lead time. Okay? I'll repeat again. The time it takes for your piece of work to flow from a commitment point to a delivery point, that is what we call the lead time. However, the time it takes for the piece of work to be finished in one delivery stage, let's say from a to-do to in progress, that is what we call a turnaround time, okay? The time it takes you to finish piece of work, to move it from one column to the next column, that is your turnaround time. And if you are to increase or to optimize on your efficiency, one of the things that you'll have to agree as a team is how long should it take on average for a piece of work to move from a commitment point to a delivery point. The other would be how long should it take for a piece of work to move from one column to the next column, which is basically the turnaround time. So the turnaround time and the lead time, these are discussion points that different teams will have to have. This is a discourse you'll have to have. Now, the other terminology that you need to acquaint yourself with is what we call the WIP limits. WIP limits, work in progress limits. Now, what is a work in progress limit? Now, one of the things or one of the advantages of using Kanban is the concept of optimizing resources, resource optimization. Right, together. Now, in resource optimization, one of the things we want to minimize on is the element of multitasking. Now, multitasking in its rudimentary form might mean that it's the fastest and the easiest way to get multiple work components done. But when you think about it critically, sometimes multitasking is not the best way to get work done. Sometimes it is best to finish with one piece of work, then pick the next piece of work, okay? Finish with one piece of work, then move to the next piece of work. Pick one work, move it to the next piece of work. Now, I'm coming to the WIP limit, what it means. Now, in your team, you know the number of resources that are there. Now, then we have the different skill sets. Now, we all know as a team, one of the decisions we have to make is that one, how much capacity can one person have? Together. I, as Job, am I able to handle up to a maximum of 3 work items or 3 workloads or up to 4 workloads at any given time? Now, that is a decision that as a team, we have to make. Now, as for each column, depending on who is assigned on each column, one of the columns could be, let's look at it this way, the process of onboarding a customer. So we have someone who goes out there to get us a customer, they bring him in, we get all the information, we do all the due diligence, okay? We onboard them, they make payment, blah, blah, we take them through that journey. So if you're a writer on any given day, okay, how much workload can you handle in any given day, okay? Now, that is going to be your WIP limit. So as you define your columns, you have to also be able to define your WIP limit, so work in progress limit. So at any given time, in each column, there'll be, let's say, I'm going to define this later on, there'll be different sets of people working in those different columns. So I, as job, if I'm unable to handle more than 3 items, 3 activities at any given time, then you cannot assign me 4. So when you look at the columns, and in one column, let's say in this column, I'm going to look at it in detail in a practical session. If there are, let's say, 3 people here, and it means that they can, for 3 people, I'm assuming that one person can take 2 tasks a maximum. So that means they can handle up to 6 tasks maximum, all of them combined. That means in this particular column, we can't have more than 6 workload being assigned to this particular column. We'll have 6. When you add 7, that means we have broken our work in progress limit. So work in progress limit, what it functions to do is to help you as a team decide how much work as a team are we able to handle at any given time. That means if there is excess work, then we tell our team leader, now we are at capacity, maximum capacity. Please hold on to that piece of work till we finish this, whatever we're doing. Then once we are free, we can be able to pull in or fish in more work items. We're going to look at that in detail. Now, to help you understand the flow, how to come up with the workflow, I've come up with a practical concept. The concept of going to purchase a prescription drug at a local pharmacy. Now, in its simplest form, remember I said that your workflow is made up of to do, work in progress, and done. But in my demonstration, I've added an extra column called here blocked. So this is in its simplest form, okay? You have a to do, a work in progress, and maybe a done. But now let's look at it with if what will happen, what will be the workflow if you go to a pharmacy, a local pharmacy. Now, as a customer, when you go to a pharmacy, you arrive at the pharmacy, you wait in queue to be served, okay? You hand in your prescription, you again go back to the queue and wait. You are called to receive your medication. You go back to wait in queue, you pay for your medication, and you leave the pharmacy. What about the business experience view? Now, if you are a worker at the pharmacy, it means that you're going to receive the script. So your point of commitment is receiving or the receipt of prescriptions, okay? You record the prescription and the person who came in with the prescription, okay? You check the stock for availability of the medication, okay? You do your due diligence in terms of, is the patient or the customer allergic to certain drugs? Are they on other medications that may impact the application of the drug being purchased, okay? Then you record the medication into the stock that has been issued so as to allow for more stock to be ordered. Then you hand over the prescription to your customer. So this is a simple workflow from a pharmaceutical point of view. So as a team, how does your workflow look like? At what point do you have your in tray and at what point do you have your out tray? And in between, how does work flow in between? So I want you to start thinking about that workflow so that when we get to the practical point, we can be able to do it efficiently. Now, what do you need to know about Kanban? Number one, Kanban is not restricted to a time limit. What does this mean? You are not bound, let's say, to 5 days or 7 days or 60 hours of working in order to finish work. So work continuously flow through your workflow. So you're not limited by time or space, okay, within which to complete a certain set of tasks. This is a different thought process from those who have been maybe have exposed themselves to the Scrum. Here at the factory, we have what we call the Scrum, but also we use Kanban in some instances. Now, in the Scrum, what we do that, we tell ourselves as a team, we have 2 weeks within which we need to accomplish a certain set of tasks, okay? So we agree as a team which these tasks are and whether they are aligned to business priority. Once we have locked it down that these are the sets of tasks we need to do, then we have 2 weeks. And by that, I mean 10 working days, because in a week we have 5 working days. So those are 10 working days within which we have to complete our tasks. But Kanban is not like that. Kanban, you're not time boxed. You are not limited by a time duration within which to complete your task, but it is a continuous flow of work. Now, the other element or the other characteristics that you need to be familiar with when working with Kanban is that as a team, you are self-organized and autonomous. You are autonomous and self-organizing. Now, what does that mean? As a team, you have been empowered, and that is something I'm going to encourage all team leaders to do. Empower the team to be able to make decisions on their own. While there might be need to consult from time to time, but decision making should not be delayed. If you have enough data with which to make decisions, make them right away. Okay, so you are self-organized and you're autonomous. Autonomous means you are independent. Teams, unit of squads or unit of teams. So you are independent in that you are not dependent on any other team on what you need to do. Let's say you are in the claims team. Whatever you do as a claims team, you run it and you determine your priority. Okay, that is why you are autonomous and you are self-organized. Now, the other element that I said, remember, you are not limited to the number of tasks and deadlines within which you need to do them, unlike the other frameworks like Scrum. So the number of tasks that you can work on, the amount of time that you can spend on them are not tied or not limited. You decide that as a team. Now, the other thing about the tasks you work on, you can reprioritize. You can decide which task is more of what priority and which task is maybe of less priority, depending on a day-to-day interaction with the team. I hope that is clear, but I can always come back to it in the question Q&A session. Now, why Kanban? Now, remember I said before, one of the reasons why I want to recommend Kanban is that it allows you to start with where you are. Now, with Kanban, you start with what you do right now. Regardless of what you do in your department or within your organization, you can start right there and there. You don't have to dismantle anything. You don't have to uproot anything in order to get started with Kanban. And the beauty about Kanban is that you have a physical whiteboard that you can start with and sticky notes. Okay, right now I know because of the COVID, the amount of interactions is limited. And now we're going to move to the digital board, but the concept is the same. Okay, so the concept is that of a whiteboard and a sticky note, though in a digital form. Now, the beauty about using whiteboard is that it's a great conversation starter. As a team, you're going to have conversation and critique on how you as a team need to work. You need to have conversation on how the different cards need to be written and populated, okay? Then you need to have conversation on how the card moves from one column to the next column, all right? Now, the other conversation that you need to have is, for example, on the definition of readiness and the definition of done. What do I mean by definition of readiness? When you bring in a piece of work into the workflow, when is it deemed ready to be picked by the team and worked upon? Do you have all the pieces and the information you need to work on that particular card or task? If there are some missing pieces that will enable you to successfully accomplish that task, I will highly recommend that raise your palm up and refer it to your team leader and say, I don't have all the pieces I need to complete this task successfully. And because I want to minimize minimal time wastage, please let's keep it on hold and let's prioritize another task till we have everything ready. That's what I mean by definition of ready. Now, the other one is called the definition of done. Now, definition of done is basically the acceptance criteria. What is the acceptance criteria for a particular piece of work? When you say that this task is deemed as done, what are the different checklists that actually say that this task is done? And this is where you have to have conversations with the team leader. And within the Kanban team setting, it is always encouraged that leadership be nurtured at every stage, at every element. So you need to have those conversations so that you have a single team leader who is able to direct. This is the person who has contact with the business, and they always set priorities on what needs to be worked on. I'm almost there. Now, the other thing that you need to understand is that as you work on Kanban, okay, these are basically the assumptions, is that the current process as they are within your organizations, they are well understood and are being practiced by the team, okay? The roles and responsibilities and the job titles within the organizations are known and again are respected by the team, okay? The other assumption is that you have to have the ability to accept and accommodate change. By doing so, you are able to pursue the concept of continuous improvement. And lastly, leadership and its acts are nurtured and encouraged at every level. Remember I said, one of the characteristics of a Kanban team, you are self-organizing, you are autonomous. And in order to be self-organizing and autonomous, you have to be able to nurture leadership at every stage. Now, how do we get across the line so that you can be successful at what you do? One, remember this is a team process. This is not an individual process. This is a team process. So as a team, you have to get together. When it comes to tasks, as a team, you have to be able to break down the tasks or the pieces of work into distinctive or atomic activities that can move across the workflow. So you as a team determine how the granularity of a piece of work so that it can be easy to move it across the workflow, okay? Now, as a team, you have to be able to make that decisions independently of when and how to move cards across and back, across the workflow. A card might have gone 3 steps ahead in the workflow, but you might decide that certain things weren't met in the previous stages. So it has to move back either 1 step or 2 steps back. So those conversations need to take place, okay? Then also as a team, you need to decide on the size and the scope of individual cards. In order to get to that point of maturity whereby you scope sets of activities for a given week and make sure that by the end of the week, whatever has been scoped has been done, then the sizing and the scoping of individual tasks has to be very, how do I put it? You have to be very specific in how you scope and size your tickets. It has to be very clear. Don't make it so ambiguous, but make sure that the piece of work is small enough that once I pick it, I can quickly close on it. Remember, you want to demonstrate work done, okay? And also, if a piece of task is too big, break it down again into another task so that you can quickly move your tasks and demonstrate what you are actually doing. Now, addition to this, I will recommend that make a decision on where your commitment points are and where your delivery points are. Remember, your commitment point is where your task comes in, and delivery point is where your task gets finished, okay? Then also allow and make room within the team for team members to critique that particular process. That is the only way you can make or get better at Kanban. Now, like I said, and I'll repeat it again, let leadership be encouraged and nurtured at all levels. And above all, it's important to have respect for people and for the concept of continuous improvement. Now, this is what I always say. As a team, you have to agree on certain minimums, bare minimums, okay? For example, what happens if the board is already full and there's no space for additional work? What then do you do? Those are discussions you'll have to have, okay? Now, the other one would be, who in the team is allowed to move the card behind a workflow that has already been completed, okay? That's a conversation that needs to happen. Then the other point would be, how long should a particular piece of work stay in a particular column. Okay? Now, at the point of commitment, who is responsible for bringing work to the points of commitment? I will recommend, because we have different skill sets within the team, each team member to be responsible for, at the beginning of every week, to ensure that there is enough work for them to work throughout the week. At the end of the week, you can have points of retrospective to understand why whatever you had scoped for the week wasn't finished, okay? And that can then inform your next week scoping. Now remember, these questions and many more will have to be discussed by the team. Now, if these and other underlying questions are ignored, the team will not be able to make considerable progress, and they will always be stuck on how do we get off the ground. So you need to have all these questions. So this is the last slide before we get into the practical session. So I always say this: you can't measure, okay? You can't improve what you can't measure, okay? Now, how do you improve, or how do you get better at Kanban? Okay, number one, you need to have certain metrics in place that help you to evaluate your progress. Remember, once you get started, you have to evaluate your progress. Unfortunately, you can't improve what you can't measure. So the key concept here is to measure your progress. Now, how do you measure your progress? These are what I call the metrics that have to be in place. And also remember, when you're coming up with these metrics, always keep them simple. Keep them simple. For example, one of the metrics would be, how long does it take to fulfill a request? And by that, I mean, when a request comes into the commitment point, how long should it take from commitment point to delivery point? That metric needs to be defined, okay? The other thing would be, how much time should the team take on a particular task? That means, how long should a task or a piece of work stay in one given column, okay? Then how long should we say, maybe on average, should one take on an individual task? Now, this will vary from team to team. And these are open conversations that need to happen. Remember, this is not prescriptive, but it's a conversation. It's a co-creation that as a team, you need to have. That's why I like using the term co-create. So as you start off, you have to co-create. It's going to be chaotic in the first few weeks, but as we continue, we are going to get better. So now I hope you have your PCs in front of you, because you're going to get to the practical bit of it, okay? I hope you have your PCs in front of you. Right, guys, I hope, because your mobile will restrict you. I hope you're in front of your PCs. And this is where we're going to start. Now, the tool I'm going to recommend today for this particular session, we have different tools that are available, but the tool I'm going to recommend is Trello, T-R-E-L-L-O, Trello. Allow me to share my screen afresh and show you. So open your browser and go to Trello.com. Open your browser and go to Trello.com. Open your browser and go to Trello.com. Some of you might have used Trello before. Some of you might have not used Trello before. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go into incognito. So I hope you can you see my screen, guys? Agnes, can you see a black screen?
Yes.
Okay. So open Trello.com. Some of you, I'm sure you have already signed up with this tool. So because of the restriction currently imposed because of COVID-19, I know physical interaction is limited. And I know that one of the principles advocated by Agile is that of co-located teams, whereby teams need to be seated in one place. But this is becoming a challenge because you can't all be in one physical space more if you don't have enough room for, let's say, 1.5 or 2 meters apart. But that now means we have to go digital. Now, the good thing is that we have enough digital tools to help us work remotely. And this is the beauty about it. You don't have to be in the office to practice this thing. Now, for you to be able to do this, you need to have the team equipped. Now, how do you equip the team? for collaboration. Number one, you need to have a tool that allows you to communicate. Now, this can be your WhatsApp, though I'll not recommend WhatsApp for team communication. There are other tools that are available, and we're going to look at it at a later date. The other tool that you need for collaboration is a video conferencing tool. And a good example is what you're using right now. It is the Zoom that you're using right now. Please make sure that your team members have signed up for Zoom. Today, when you leave this conference call, if you don't have a Zoom account, it is free, and it is you don't have to pay for anything. Though you'll be limited to 40 minutes of live video. Once it goes off, you can always restart it. But please sign up for Zoom. Now, the other tool is the task management tool or the project management tool. And this is what you're seeing on my screen right now. It is the Trello. This is what, as a team, you are going to use to track your individual tasks. Okay, so that means everybody in the team have to put their individual tasks on this board. Remember, someone might, if you, let's say someone is in Shaurimoyo, someone is in Kondele, someone is in Kajiado, someone is in Thika, you are dispersed and you are not limited, and you, I mean, there's a huge chasm in between you, and you can't just come together physically. And God forbid we come to a point where we have to work from home, everyone, we need to be ready. So I'm going to recommend that make sure you have these three tools in place if you're going to successfully collaborate: communication, video, and task management. Now for your task management, please go to Trello.com. I hope you are on Trello.com. Now, the first thing you need to do is to sign up for the service. Sign up for the service. For this particular exercise, use an email that you have access to. So if you want to use your personal work email, or you want to use your, sorry, if you want to use your personal email or your official email, make a decision. But once as a team you decide to start using this tool for task management, please make sure you're using an official email, because you don't want to mix your personal stuff with the official stuff. Now, to sign up, basically, enter your email and proceed. So if your email is job, like me, then just say proceed. Then it will tell you, I know I've already signed up, it will tell me that that email already exists. So you'll go, it will take you to a particular page. So I'm going to give you guys, so it will take you to a page where it will tell you that an email has been sent to your, a link has been sent to your email. Go to your email, click on it, then set up your password. I'm going to give you exactly 2 minutes to do that, everyone. 2 minutes starting now. Please go to Trello.com. The activity is go to Trello.com. Okay? Sign up. A link will be sent to your email that you've used for signing up. Go to your email, click on that link. Okay? Now, that link will open a new page. It will ask you to set up your password. Enter a password that you can remember. So once you've set up your password, it will bring you to a new page. Agnes, can you still see my screen with Trello stuff?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
We can see.
Yeah. So once you've set up your password, it will bring you to like a page like this. Okay. So you have exactly 1 minute to go so that I can further lead you. In the meantime, I'll ask you to enter into the chat the email address you've used to sign up so that I can do my demonstration effectively. Using the chat feature, please enter the email address you've used. I'm going to demonstrate something to you that you need to be aware of. Use the chat feature, share with me your email addresses, the email addresses that you've used, kindly. Share with me the email addresses that you've used. Guys, I'm waiting for the first email address. I'm waiting for the first email address. Awesome, Shilpa. Okay. Have you finished, guys, setting up your email addresses? We need to move to the next thing. "30 seconds remaining. Now, guys, let's focus. Come back to my screen. Come back to my screen. Come back to my screen. Are you all back to my screen? Now, the next thing, once you have set up Trello, because you're going to have individual teams, you need to have one single team board. You don't have to have multiple boards. Have one board, okay? Now, the first step, and this is for everyone's information. The first step you need to do is to create your team on Trello. So that means you're going to talk to your team members and ask them to subscribe to Trello, okay? Now, once you're on Trello, I hope you've already logged in. Next to the home button, there's this overflow button. You click on it, it will bring you to this particular page. Click on this overflow button and it will bring you to this particular page. Now, over here, there's the place teams. Me already have a couple of teams in place. So for you, you'll have no team. But if you've used Trello before, you might see maybe 1 or 2 teams already created. But if it's your first time, then the first thing you need to do is to set up your team. So you come over here and give your team name. So ours here will be Agile 101 Team Training for Kanban, okay? Then what you do, you choose the type of the team. I'll say other. I'll just put other. Then you can put a small description of what your team is all about. Okay, it can be a 1-line or a 2-line description of what your team is all about. Then you click on continue. Now in the next page, this is where you invite your team members. So I'm going to invite the first person here. You can see I've copied and pasted that email address. I've copied another one. I'm pasting. I'm going to use like 5 of them. Now, if you receive a link from me, please make sure you paste it. You click on that link. So I'm sure you're looking at my screen. Then it means you can actually, you'll know that I've invited you. So please go to your email address and check for that link. Why is it not showing? I think that it's already there. Shilpa. There. I'm going to use like 5 or 6. So I'm going to use only those ones. There's so many email addresses that have been sent to me. So if you can see your name on the screen, please watch out for my email. Please watch out for my email. Please watch out for my email. I think I have enough email addresses, guys. I can see so many are coming through. Rina, I can be able to. So what I'll do, I'll invite those ones. Then I'll show you how the rest of you who I've not invited will be able to join. I'm going to show you how to do it, don't worry. So I have already sent an invite, okay? If your name was there, please check out for my email. But for those whom I have not added, this is the trick, okay? So now once you have created your, yes?
Just to cut you, Shilpa says something on the chat. I don't know if she's been able to create an account about her browser.
Browser.
She says her browser is not supported.
Chrome.
And she's using Chrome.
Oh, Chrome should be supported because unless she's using the old version of Chrome, does she have?
I think she's online. Shilpa, have you been able to create your account on Trello? Shilpa?
Allow me to.
It's telling me you've been logged out.
You've been logged out.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to go to what I'll advise you to do, go back to the login screen. Go back to the login screen and click login. Can you remember your password?
Yes.
So go back to the login screen. Just go to trello.com and click login and just use your email address and password to log in.
Okay, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, so guys, so if you've already seen my invite, you should be seeing my invite. So what you're going to do next is to create a board, okay? So in this space, once again, what you can do, click on the overflow button, okay? Click on the, not overflow, but the home screen, click on the home screen. Then over here, if you come to Teams, you'll see the team here, click on the team, go to that particular team. So for you as a team member, you'll go to there and go to your own personal team. It will bring you to this particular place. Then what you do, you'll create a new board, okay? So right now we don't have any team board, as you can see. So what we'll do is create a new board. So what is our board? So under the board title here, it could be the name of your team. Let's say it could be you are on reinsurance. It could be that you are on pensions. It could be that you are on claims. It could be that you are on legal. It could be you are on in customer care. So let's say we call this CX Kanban. That's the name of our team, CS Kanban 101. Then I'll say create board. Now, for those who did not receive a link from me, this is how I'm going to show you to invite other people. Now, to invite other people, can you see the invite link? So here is where you come and say, click invite. Okay, then you'll say, create a link. So once you click on create a link, you will copy it and maybe use your email to share. So use your email to share. So I'm going to paste that link in the chat. Okay, so I'm pasting the link in the chat so that the persons whom I did not invite in the previous session can actually use the same link to come to my board. So I have pasted the link on the chat. You can see it there. Please click on it to onboard into my board. As you can see, a couple of people are already coming online. I can see Agnes, I can see Boniface, I can see Damasilin, I can see Nicholas. Guys are coming in. So use that link to come to my board so that you can work together. Please click on it in the next 1 minute. Click on it. Let's make it chap. I can already see 3 others already click on joining. If you have not been able to sign to subscribe to Trello, please subscribe to Trello. Don't let this session end without you coming to Trello. And then use the same link to join our board. This will be our working board. So as a team, remember, create one board for your team and then go to invite, generate a link. And yes, someone is talking. Hi guys, someone is saying something? So go to the invite button, option, click invite, then you generate a link, create a link, copy it, send it to your team members, and then they will use it to come to the board. Now, if you're already on the board, this is how your board will look like in the beginning. It is blank. Remember, I gave you a couple of terminologies at the beginning associated with Kanban. One of them was a card, another one was column, another one was workflow. Let's start with those 3 terms: card, column, and workflow. And I said the workflow are the different stages that your work actually, or your task actually goes through. And you capture your piece of work or task in a card, okay? Now, this is where you start creating your workflow. And I said as a team, make a decision on the kind of workflow you want to use, okay? So I'm going to come with the most generic workflow right now. The most generic workflow always starts with And in your Trello board, this is the first thing you'll see in your empty Trello board. The first column is the backlog or to do. It can be backlog or to do. Now, this is where everything you plan on working on in a particular week are actually placed. It's like a parking lot. So it's a parking lot of your ideas or planned commitment for the week. So they sit over here, okay? Now, then you press enter, okay? Now the next column is in progress. This is your work in progress. This is the most generic form of column of workflow, but as a team, come up with your workflow. The next one I always like to have is review. Okay, because once you do something, you want someone to review it for you. Maybe you're finished on a work, but you want your supervisor to review it. So always have a review column. Press enter, then have a blocked column for any piece of work that might be blocked. You're going to come on this and review what it means. Now I've talked with a couple, then finally you have, press enter, then finally you have a done column. Now I have talked with a couple of teams and they keep telling me that in our day-to-day work, sometimes what you plan for at the beginning of the week is not what you end up doing. Sometimes your manager comes and tells you, no, you have to work on this, forget what you're working on previously. So it is more of an ad hoc task. And there's sometimes very urgent pieces of work that you have to give attention to. Then you can then go back to your usual work. Now, remember you have to keep track of everything that you do so that it is visible to everyone. In that instance, I always recommend have an additional column called ad hoc. So this is where you're going to capture all the tasks that were not planned for in the week. As a team, you may have planned for a given set of activities, but in the course of the week, something urgent comes up that you guys had not foreseen, and you have to accommodate it. And remember, one of the elements of Agile is we accommodate change. So that is the column you're going to use for your changes that are not foreseen. Now, so this is your generic workflow. I have like about 5 minutes to go. This is your generic workflow. Now, the next thing you have to do is to add the individual tasks. Now, how do you add the tasks? The tasks are captured in form of a card. And I'm going to urge you guys to practice with this so that when you rehearse more and more, it starts to stick in your mind. Now, the pieces of work are captured in cards. This is what we call a card. So basically to add a card, you just come here and say, add a card. Then you give it a title. So let's say it's a card that has to do with payment. So if it's a payment related activity, you can say payment, then you can say something like this, pay Njoro XXX, okay? Now, here is something you want to do. Come to the overflow over here, okay? Not that one, sorry. Come to this sorry. Then just press enter. Now, once you press enter, you want to add more detail to this card. So when you click on this pencil icon, it will give you quick links. One of the things you can do is to give it a label, give it a color to distinguish it. Allow me to elaborate why you need to distinguish some of your cards. Now, within your department, you may have different work streams that needs to be done. For example, you have something to do with payments. You have something to do with, let's say, audit. You have something to do with, let's say, maybe, how do you call it? Maybe, let's call it maybe new business. You have something to do with, let's say, maybe called claims. So you want these cards to reflect that. So if it is a claims card, you can give it a yellow color. If it is something, let's say, to do with audit, you can give it a different label. So you can choose your label the way you want. Now, the other thing that I want you to look at here, when you click on this pencil icon, when a card is created, you can decide to give it an overall member. So you'll see all the team members that were created and the people you sent to the link. You can see them here. Then you can actually assign them that particular task, okay? Now, the other thing is that when you come over here, you can decide to put a due date for this particular activity. So let's say you want this task to be done, let's say by Friday. What time Friday? You want it to by 3 o'clock p.m. Friday. Then you say save. Now, let's add more detail to the card. Now, to add more detail to the card, I did show you that. Just click anywhere outside here, then come to the card and click on it. Now, one of the things, best practices, I always call it best practices. You want, when someone opens a card, you want them to have an idea what that card is about. For example, payments, pay Njoro X. What is it about? give it like a 1 sentence or a 2 sentence description. You can say something like, give it a small description over here. Something like that, okay? Now say that within the payment activity, there are several things to be done. Remember I said you may, in your department, you may have different work streams. You have something to do with audits, you have something to do with payments, you have something to do with claims, you have something to do with reporting and so forth. So now, at a very high level, those are your cards. You have a reporting card, you have a payment card, you have an audit card, you have a claims card. At a very high level, those are the different work streams, okay? And we said that make sure that they're small enough for the week. Now, add the actual work that is being done by the team members for that particular card. So over here, there's this activity called checklist. I'm seeing my time is running out and I'm finishing with this. So with the checklist is now the actual task that needs to go here. So this can be, let's say, task 1, then you say add card. If you have another task, then come back to checklist, say task 2, then add it. Now, add more details to here. And that's why I said every person is responsible for each card so that you don't have one person being overburdened by this. So over here, just to give it a small description that I need to do X and X. And I'll be giving this particular, so to assign it, you come over here. I know assigning it might not be possible because this is a free version. So here you won't be able to assign. But if you want to show who is helping you here, what you can do here, you can come here and say, so this art, I missed it here. So when you come here, this art sign, it allows you to tag someone who is going to assist you with this particular task. So you say, you click here and you click on a name and the name is going to come there. And when you say add, they will get a notification. So we have run out of time, unfortunately, and we're going to have more time in our next series. But for now, this is where we tumefika, hapa ndo mali tumefika on Kanban. I know I've moved so fast and I did leave room for question, but allow me to open it to 3 questions so that we pick up next time to this. I know it was too much for this particular session, but I'm going to open it now for you guys to ask me questions. The floor is open, but I'm going to build up on this next time. Remember, we're just starting on our practical and I'm going to build on it next time. So guys, the floor is open. Let's hear from you. Unmute and come in.
Job, my question would be, just for you to do a recap where you said Kanban is not limited to a certain time. I didn't quite understand that.
Okay. Allow me to run my screen. I'm going to stop this share. So allow me to run my slide deck. Allow me to share. Allow me to share. I'm about to share my screen in 1, 2, 3. There it is. So you're saying what are you saying, Agnes? That
Kanban is not limited to a certain time.
Okay, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So that is the. Yes. So that was about getting started with Kanban. Go back to the beginning. Project management tool. So here we are. So these are basically characteristics that you need to be aware of when it comes to Kanban. Now, when I say you're not limited by time, it means that work flows through the different columns every single day. So if you brought a certain task into the board at the point of commitment, there is no deadline within, you are not limited or restricted by time. But that does not mean as a team, you can't optimize, okay? So remember, Kanban is not like Scrum where we say we have 2 weeks within which to do a given set of tasks. Okay, Kanban is continuous. Work continuously come into the board and flows through. So when you bring in a work or when you set in a piece of work, you basically say, it can go on. I'm not limited by time. But as a team, you want to optimize. You can say, remember the terminologies I used: commitment point and delivery point. As a team, you want to optimize and you want to measure. And you say, what is the lead time? The time it takes from the time the task was created to the time it was finished. How long? What's the bare minimum we should have? Then as a team, you start to adopt those metrics. But when you're doing so, remember, you are not restricted to, let's say, 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month. It can even be a day and you're done, and you pick on the next task. You can be finished in the next 1 hour and you pick the next task. So what basically I mean is that you do not have to commit beforehand to the number of tasks you need to do and finish. So you can have as many tasks as possible when you're starting, okay? Then you just pick up what has been prioritized as you continue, but you're not limited to a set of tasks within a set of time. That's what I meant.
Okay, cool, thanks. I think I get it.
Okay. Team, I'm looking forward to you guys. I'm waiting for you guys I'm waiting to hear from you. Hi, guys. There are no questions. Wow, okay. Hi, Collins.
Comment maybe. Hi.
Yes, Collins, yes.
It's really an interesting tool to use.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that you'll take us through this whole process until we get, used to it, so that we can easily use it without any struggle.
Yes.
I can tell it's a very nice tool that I've not used before myself. So if I can really get my hands on it, and then it can be a very good tool to use.
Yeah,
yes.
So the next few sessions, we are going to dedicate it to practical sessions, to hands-on sessions. So as we continue, we're going to have practical hands-on session. So in order to do that, I'm going to encourage everyone to go to that link that I gave you, come into the board, and we'll be working on this board. So this is where the rubber meets the road. And after about 2 to 3 sessions, you should have at least an idea on how to go about it. Last question, team.
And there's a question on the chat from Swabir.
Swabir, oh, okay, I didn't see, where is it? Where is the, let me see, just a minute. What's Swabir saying? Could you tell us more on Butler tools? Awesome. So allow me to share my screen once more. So Swabir, to your question, Butler tools. Now, Butler tools are basically features or automation tools that have been enabled for you to make it possible to be more efficient. It's like from the word butler. The English word butler is someone who waits on your door, right? When someone knocks, they go to the door and they check, they welcome them. So that's the most basic form of the word butler. So how can you use butler over here? So butler, when you come to butler, you can choose certain activities that is automatically done for you by Trello. For example, you can choose to say, for example, when do you move or flash out tickets in the done column. So this is an activity we're going to look at next. For example, we have here rules. This is an example, okay? So when a card is created in the board by anyone, automatically add the yellow label to the card and set due dates to 5 working days, and then move it to the do column. So basically, these are automation tools that you want enabled on your board, okay? So over here, there are different automations that you can choose. But because this is a free version that we are using, you'll only be limited to, let's say, one butler activity. For example here, which button do you want to create? So let's say create a button. So you can create a button that will allow you to do a certain action. So what's the action? The actions are listed over here. So for example, move a card. When do you want to move a card? So I'll come back here, like it's saying, let's look at the example. When I'll create a butler action. So it's basically an action that you create that when someone adds a card in the to-do button, in the to-do, column, or in the backlog column, then A, B, C, D, and E will automatically be done. Now, for me on my board, this is what I do for the butlers that I've enabled. So if you look at the board over here, these are the workflow, and the last one is the done column. So when it is done, everything is done, and we are happy. The problem is that over time, cards get added to the done, and I mean, you start having an endless, a messy board. So what I do is that after every week, at the end of every week, once we do our team review, then I flush out the done column. I automatically archive them. So I create a butler. I can create a butler. This can be so this is an example of a butler. So I create an additional button here, like here, butler. So what will be the butler? The butler will be, please archive all the tickets that are in the done column at the end of every week or every 2 weeks. So it's basically an automation activity that you add to your board to make it more simpler, more easy to use, and more interactive. It's basically adding a level of artificial intelligence to your board. That's what it means, Swabir, by the butler. I hope guys you got that. And there's so many butler actions. So in addition to butler, we have what you call the power apps. If this was a paid version, you'll have seen how cool it is. Power apps are basically additional AI tools that you can use. For example, you can generate an analytics report on how your board is doing on a day-to-day basis. For example, you can also do something to do with automation. For example, what do you add to your board? Things like that. So these are some of those cool features you can add to your board. Last question, guys. Sabir, I hope I answered you. Last question. Okay, then that's it. So guys, see you next time for the next session. I hope this session was quite informative and quite helpful. So in the next coming sessions, we're going to get our hands dirty. And this is where we're going to really, really learn how to handle tasks using a digital project management tool. Otherwise, it's a big thank you from me.